There are ideas that change the world, and others that wait patiently for the right mind to carry them forward. Victor Gideon did not invent anything truly new. He simply chose to continue something that should have ended. Long before silence swallowed a city, before its name became a warning whispered across the world, Gideon worked within the cold, ordered halls of Umbrella Corporation. He was not the most celebrated scientist there, not the loudest, not the boldest, but he was one of the few who truly believed. While others saw the T-virus as a project, something to control, weaponize, or profit from, Gideon saw something else entirely, a threshold, a fragile line between what humanity was and what it could become. And behind that belief stood a single figure, Oswell E. Spencer. To Gideon, Spencer was more than a founder. He was a visionary who dared to imagine humanity reshaped, refined, elevated, a future where evolution would no longer be left to chance. And Gideon quietly devoted himself to that vision, not for recognition, not for power, but because he believed it was inevitable. Then came the incident that the world would never forget: the fall of Raccoon City. Fire consumed the skyline, sirens dissolved into chaos, and in a single, irreversible moment, the illusion of control shattered. For most, it was horror. For Gideon, it was proof. The world called it a catastrophe. Gideon saw confirmation. Humanity had touched something beyond its limits, and instead of stepping back, it had lost its grip entirely. But in that failure, he saw something pure, something honest. Umbrella collapsed soon after. Trials were held. Names were dragged into the light. But when authorities searched for Victor Gideon, they found nothing. No records, no trace. He had vanished. Not in panic, not in fear, but with intention. Years passed. The world moved on, slowly rebuilding over the scars left behind. But far from the public eye, Gideon resurfaced, quietly. He acquired a place few paid attention to, a long-standing medical facility known as the Rhodes Hill Chronic Care Center. It stood on the outskirts of a quiet region surrounded by trees that seemed too still, too watchful. To outsiders, it was just a hospital, a place for long-term care, a place people entered and rarely left. Under Gideon's direction, it became something else. The halls remained clean. The staff remained disciplined. Records appeared normal. But beneath that calm surface, something deeper was taking shape. Gideon had not abandoned Umbrella's research. He had refined it. Working in isolation, he continued experiments with the T-virus, not as reckless outbreaks, but as controlled studies. Precise, measured, quiet. He observed how the body resisted, how it adapted, how it failed. And more importantly, he studied the mind, because Gideon had come to a conclusion others had overlooked. The body breaks easily. The mind takes longer. Some patients arrived already weakened. Others were selected. And some simply disappeared from the world without explanation. In the hidden chambers beneath Rhodes Hill, the experiments continued. Not chaotic, not rushed, but patient. Always patient. It was during these years that Gideon encountered something that would define the rest of his life. A name buried within fragments of Umbrella's lost research. A project even Spencer had kept hidden. Elpis. Very little was known about it. No complete files, no clear data, only whispers. Fragments suggesting it held the power to reshape the balance of the world itself. For most, that would have been a dead end. For Gideon, it became an obsession. If Spencer had hidden it, it meant it mattered. If it remained unfinished, it meant it could be completed. But Elpis was locked behind layers of secrets Gideon could not access. So he turned to another path, one that required time and sacrifice. He began experimenting with cloning, children created from incomplete data, modeled after fragments he believed were connected to Spencer's final work. Each one was a possibility, each one a failure. They didn't survive long. Some deteriorated quickly. Others changed in ways that made them unusable. But Gideon never reacted, never showed frustration, because to him, failure was simply a step closer to accuracy. Years turned into decades, and still, something was missing. A variable he could not recreate, a detail that refused to reveal itself, until one day he found a name, hidden within old records, connected not to theory, but to reality. Grace Ashcroft, a child once linked, however distantly, to Spencer's final years, a possible survivor of something far more significant. Gideon did not rush. He never rushed. Instead, he watched. From a distance, through reports, records, fragments of a life lived far from him. Years passed again, more than 20, while the world forgot. Gideon remembered, because to him this was never just research, it was completion. And somewhere within the quiet halls of Rhodes Hill, surrounded by patients who would never leave, by experiments that never truly ended, by silence that seemed to listen back, Victor Gideon waited, not for an opportunity, but for the moment when everything would finally align. And when it did, he would be ready. Obsession does not announce itself. It doesn't arrive like a storm. It settles, slowly, quietly, until one day it is the only thing left. For Victor Gideon, that moment came when watching was no longer enough. After years, decades of silence, observation, and patience, he decided to act. The name that had lingered in his mind for so long was no longer just a possibility. It was a certainty. Grace Ashcroft. But Grace was not alone. Where she went, there was always a shadow from the past. Her mother, Alyssa Ashcroft. A journalist, curious, persistent, the kind of person who asked questions long after others stopped caring. To Gideon, she wasn't an obstacle. She was a complication. So he prepared, not with haste, but with precision. In a quiet town, inside a modest hotel room, a story began to unfold. A man watched from a distance, patient, silent, waiting for confirmation. For 2 days, he observed Alyssa, her routines, her movements, the subtle way she checked her surroundings. She suspected something. She always had good instincts, but instincts, Gideon knew, only delayed the inevitable. On the night of October 19th, everything moved into place. A simple phone call confirmed what he needed. Room 204. The Ashcrofts were there. And then, darkness. The lights failed. The world narrowed into shadows and uncertainty. In that moment, the plan should have been perfect, swift, controlled, quiet. But something unexpected happened. Alyssa resisted. She saw the threat before it fully revealed itself. She moved quickly, pulling Grace with her, trying to escape the tightening circle around them. What followed was not chaos, but something worse. A controlled collapse. Footsteps echoed in the dark. A door opened. A figure appeared, just for a second before disappearing again. Then a gunshot. A body fell. The hotel manager caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Grace's breathing became sharp, uneven. Alyssa tried to keep her calm, whispering reassurances she wasn't sure she believed herself. And for a moment, it seemed like they might escape. But Gideon had accounted for almost everything. The attacker returned, wounded, but not stopped. And this time, there was no hesitation. Alyssa turned, shielding Grace instinctively. There was a flash, another sound, closer this time, and then silence. When the moment passed, the world felt different, as if something essential had been removed. Alyssa Ashcroft lay still. The attacker, too, collapsed shortly after, his body failing from his injuries. A lantern tipped. Flames began to spread. By morning, the fire had erased most of what had happened. Almost. But not everything. Grace survived. And that was enough. To Gideon, the operation was not a failure. It was progress. Because loss changes people. It reshapes them, strips away certainty, leaves something more malleable behind. And Grace disappeared. Not physically, but emotionally. She withdrew from the world, from people, from anything that resembled the life she had before. To most, it looked like grief. To Gideon, it looked like preparation. Years passed again, but this time the waiting felt different, closer. During those years, Gideon continued his work at Rhodes Hill, but his focus had shifted. He discovered something new, something unexpected, a condition affecting survivors of the Raccoon City incident. At first, it seemed unrelated. Small symptoms, dark bruises, fatigue. But then it progressed. Rapidly, the body began to fail. The virus, thought to be suppressed, was still there, dormant, adapting, evolving. Gideon gave it a name, Raccoon City Syndrome. To others, it was terrifying, a delayed consequence of a tragedy that never truly ended. To Gideon, it was proof. The virus had never stopped. It had simply been waiting. And if it could evolve on its own, then so could humanity. But Gideon was no longer content to observe evolution. He wanted to guide it. So he did something irreversible. He injected himself, not recklessly, not blindly, but with intention. A modified strain combined with something more stable, something designed to enhance without destroying. The change was immediate, but controlled. His strength increased. His endurance sharpened. His body adapted without losing clarity. And most importantly, his mind remained intact. Now, Gideon was no longer just a scientist studying transformation. He was living proof of it. And with that final step, he returned to the one piece still missing, Grace. He found her again, working quietly, living a structured, isolated life. No distractions, no attachments. Perfect. So once again, Gideon began to move the pieces. A case, a location tied to her past, a reason she could not ignore. And just like before, she walked directly into it. This time, there would be no escape, because Victor Gideon was no longer waiting for the right moment. He had become it. By the time Victor Gideon finally stood before her, there was no hesitation left in him. No doubt. No uncertainty. After decades of waiting, searching, refining his purpose, Grace Ashcroft was no longer just a possibility. She was the answer. The moment he took her, it felt almost quiet, not violent, not chaotic, inevitable. She struggled, of course, anyone would. But to Gideon, her resistance was not defiance. It was misunderstanding. "You don't see it yet," he told her softly as her strength faded. "But you will." Back at the Rhodes Hill facility, everything began to unravel. Not because something had gone wrong, but because Gideon no longer needed to pretend. With a single command, the system changed. Protocols shifted, locks sealed, and something hidden beneath the structure was finally released. Infection spread through the halls. Patients, staff, all becoming part of the same final experiment. It wasn't panic. Not to Gideon. It was completion. As chaos echoed through the building, another presence entered the story. A man who had seen too much and still chose to keep going. Leon S. Kennedy. Where Gideon moved with certainty, Leon moved with urgency. Their encounter was brief, but telling. Leon attacked first, direct, decisive. Gideon didn't react with anger. He simply adapted, enhanced strength, controlled movement, a calm precision that turned defense into dominance. Within moments, Leon was on the ground, unconscious. Gideon studied him for a second, not as an enemy, but as a subject. "You're already dying," he murmured, noticing the signs of infection beneath the surface. Umbrella's curse never really leaves. To Gideon, this was just another confirmation, another piece of truth falling into place. But Grace, she was different. When she woke, she demanded answers. Why her? Why all of this? Gideon's response was simple. "I didn't take anything from you," he said calmly. "I freed you." To him, the world outside was the illusion, a fragile structure built on denial, and Grace was meant to step beyond it. But something unexpected began to happen. The truth Gideon had built his life around started to fracture, deep beneath the ruins of the past, in a place long buried by time and ash. The final secret revealed itself. Elpis, not a weapon, not a virus, a cure, a complete countermeasure, something designed to erase everything the T-virus had created. For a moment, Gideon was silent, not externally, but internally. A lifetime of belief, reduced to something else entirely. But Victor Gideon was not a man who collapsed under truth. He redefined it. "If it can end everything," he whispered almost to himself, "then it can begin everything." Even now, he refused to let go, because this was never about what Elpis was. It was about what it represented: control, evolution, ascension. And if the world insisted on moving toward order, then Gideon would drag it back into chaos. His body began to change, the enhancements he had embraced, the virus he had refined. All of it began to push further, beyond control, beyond humanity. His form twisted, expanded, something no longer bound by human limits. And yet, his mind remained clear, focused, determined, to the very end. The final confrontation was not just a battle, it was a collision of beliefs. Gideon, who believed humanity needed to be remade, and Leon, who believed it was still worth saving. Between them, everything came to a single moment. Power against persistence, control against resilience, and slowly, inevitably, Gideon began to fall. Not because he was weaker, but because his vision demanded too much. As his form collapsed, breaking apart into something unstable, incomplete, there was no scream, no rage, only a quiet realization that he had seen something real, but misunderstood its meaning. That evolution, was not something that could be forced. And as the last traces of Victor Gideon dissolved into silence, there was no grand ending, no final words, only stillness, the kind that comes after everything has already been decided. Somewhere in the distance, the world continued, unaware, unchanged, or perhaps changed in ways too small to notice, because ideas like Gideon's don't truly disappear. They wait for someone else to listen. Thank you so much for watching the whole video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos. Share this story with a friend or family member who needs a good bedtime story. I wish you a peaceful night and a good night's sleep. See you in the next video.